This is Disco Stu. Ahem. Disco Stu likes to party. Disco Stu loves the ladies. Disco Stu is a savvy businessman, even though Disco Stu doesn't advertise. But most of all, Disco Stu likes disco music. This is the history of Disco Stu. Oh man, this is gonna be a fun one. Everyone in the comments last time wanted this guy to get his moment in the spotlight. He is so upbeat and groovy, you know? Disco Stu shows up, and it's party time. He's very Duffman-esque. Finally, a character study that will be chill and straightforward. We're gonna hang out, listen to some catchphrases, and get the lowdown on this guy. This Simpsons history is gonna be all about the good vibes. Also, before we begin, a quick content warning for all this stuff. Hooray! This is one of the rare characters in which many fans know exactly when he debuted, because they made such a big song and dance about it in Season 7's Two Bad Neighbors. Homer had this old rhinestone jacket, to which Marge asks, "Who's Disco Stu?" and Homer explains that he ran out of space. But there is a Disco Stu after all. He still won't buy the jacket, but he does bust a groove until it fizzles out. Obviously, Disco Stu was introduced as a one-off joke character, akin to someone like the Human Fly. But interestingly, instead of tossing him into the garbage, they let him stay around in the background in scattered Oakley and Weinstein era episodes. You get your foot in the door as a Simpsons extra, then you get your glorious follow-up appearance. Everyone who hates Disco Stu, you should probably blame the twisted world of Marge Simpson, because he absolutely kills it here, confidently showing off the popularity trends and confessing he can't get the dead goldfish out of his shoes. Easily his most famous and memeable joke, this is where Stu cemented his random Simpsons oddball role. That said, it's not like disco fever took over the show in the Mike Scully era. Most of his appearances would be in background crowd shots. Here he is boogieing down on the ice, here he is in the rejects pile in the Bachelor's auction. In Dumbbell Indemnity, he owns a disco that Homer and Moe go to. Or they're just using his likeness. As for Stu himself, he appears as the returning champion on Springfield Squares, making a tic-tac-toe joke before being admonished by Kent. In Little Big Mom, he debuts his new role as a smooth-talking pickup artist. He saunters over there, sits on the armrest, and asks Marge if she parties. I gotta say, Disco Stu and Marge are such a funny character combination. Her general obliviousness and asking, "Who's Disco Stu again?" Then how he immediately bails when finding out she has kids. Perfect role for him. They're letting him be his groovy self, but not just copying the Two Bad Neighbors shtick. We do get one super stereotypical appearance to close out this era, when he visits the Maud statue and has a seizure dream. This may be Stu's version of heaven, but it's Sinatra's version of hell. It's clear that the show is clowning on Disco Stu, but is being presented as an upbeat stereotype without any real problems. Unfortunately, things are about to change in the Al Jean era. The good news is that Al Jean seems to like this guy, and he's appearing more and more frequently. The bad news? Well, we're about to see the darker side of Disco. In Season 13, Marge goes to his house for a petition signature, and Stu confesses his addiction to sugar, snorting several lines and awkwardly dancing his sugar high. Then in the anthology episode, he appears as Disco Stu, one of Marge's many suitors. Wait a minute, scratch that. He's actually trying to pick up Bart. Thankfully not a canonical appearance, and making fun of the ancient Greeks, but it's not a great sign when you're the one being picked for this joke. In How I Spent My Strummer Vacation, we get our first glimpse behind the curtain. Stu admits that he actually hates disco, and is frustrated that people think of him as a one-note guy. We've reached the point where the series is doing subversive character jokes with him, throwing everything we know about him into question. In other appearances, he's getting absolutely clobbered by Roid Rage Marge, and being Lenny's replacement on Homer's talk show. Disco Stu knows his place. The show is more actively beating him down these days, and playing around with our expectations. To be fair, it's not all drugs and child predation. We still get classic upbeat Disco Stu, now in shrew form. Here he is working pro bono at Artie Ziff's 70s prom. Here he is rollerblading as Stonewall Jackson in their reenactment. Here he is boogieing down with Homer in his I Love to Walk song. He gets a shout out in Lisa's love letter song about Springfield, and Marge includes him in her special thanks in her debut novel. In season 16, we get an important new development. Selma tells Patty that she married Disco Stu off screen recently. He busts in and declares, Disco Stu just got an annulment from John Paul II. Now you might be thinking this is just another random one-off joke, yet another Selma husband to add to the pile. But somehow, this little bit of trivia managed to get lodged into his character. Like here he is, for example, on Selma's wedding banner 2 seasons later. We will see this Selma-Stu connection going forward. Anyway, these late teen seasons are mostly business as usual for Stu. They backed off the skeezier aspects of his characterization, preferring to instead murder him in back-to-back Treehouse of Horrors. He is being lumped in with the wackos and nutcases of Springfield, but at least Marge built a popsicle stick statue of him. Maybe that ski lodge flirting works somehow, because Marge does have a strange fondness for him. Or perhaps it's a sense of guilt. As we learned in Springfield Up, she was the one who introduced him to disco music. He used to be Nautical Stu, posing for his license photo, but is so enraptured by the beat that he totally upends his life. Wait a minute. So Homer is to Barney as Marge is to Disco Stu. I guess someone's got to introduce you to your addiction. In the next few seasons, at the start of the HD era, they went through a phase of exploring Disco Stu's love life. When the family gets a hot tub, he's one of the swingers trying to creep in on the action. After Edna Krabappel gets fired, she laments that no man wants her except Disco Stu. Stu assures her he's more than just disco. He's also super Christian. That's a weird angle to try on Edna, but then again, she went for Flanders later, so maybe he picked up on Edna's devout kink. In season 22, we get 3 different glimpses of the struggles in his love life. First, he attends the dating seminar in The Blue and the Gray. Then, in Homer Scissorhands, he attends a fancy party and is introduced as Discotheque Stewart. Mel notes that he's unaccompanied, and Stu clarifies his girlfriend is sick. It turns out, she's actually with Krusty. Damn. And finally, when Selma marries Fat Tony, Marge remarks that the only one of Selma's husbands she liked was Disco Stu. Because, once again, Marge is secretly in love with him. But mostly, it's because he was so upbeat. Anyway, she says that they broke up when he discovered that Selma didn't like disco. That's right. This random annulment joke, we got the backstory to 6 seasons later. What the hell, guys? You can't keep Mona Simpson's backstory straight, but Disco Stu's is unbreakable. In season 23, we get a new variation on Disco Stu gags, where he has suddenly abandoned his trademark style. For example, Professor Frink uses his Inception dream device on him to cure his obsession. Normal Stu likes normal things. The following year, when hipsters take over Springfield, he gets super into Daft Punk. Bart has a dream where everyone is stupid now, and something Stu forgot the music he loves. In the Days of Future Future flash forward, they cure his obsession once again, this time with a Total Recall parody. It's a whole new day for Nothing Stu. And in Barthood, in yet another flash forward, here he is sitting sadly by himself. He thought disco was coming back, but now he's just Stu. Nothing Stu. I don't know if this Nothing Stu concept was meant as a runner, or if they independently each thought of the joke. It is a pretty logical subversion to think of for him. Either way, they strongly imply that Stu eventually gives up his obsession. In the present day, however, these later seasons did continue featuring him as his party-loving self, like at Moe's, at an erotic mask party, during adult Halloween, or at the Simpsons house. Naturally, he is always pursuing the foxy ladies of Springfield, as any disco enthusiast would. He is one of the many men who message Marge on Sassy Madison. He scopes out these cheerleaders in the backyard. Oh look, he actually got someone to come over to his house. In a Treehouse of Horror, Luann reveals that she's cheating on Kirk with Stu, her breakdancing instructor. He's even on a gay dating app. Smithers describes him as a straight guy going through a phase, or as Disco Stu puts it, hetero-flexible. Let's just say that Disco Stu gets around. It's reached the point that he joined Sex Addicts Anonymous. He seems to be part of several organizations, whether for fun or for personal improvement. In season 27, he's escaping with the others from a rehab clinic. And in season 31, Krusty inadvertently confirms him as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Disco S is quite a mess. He's a member of the Mystery and Secrecy Committee, which he desperately clings onto. He's on a bowling team called Selma's Exes, and does bar trivia on Team Fax Body Spray. Okay, so I presume Manichek is here because of Sex Addicts Anonymous, and Artie Ziff from the 70s prom. But I wonder what his connection with Apu is. Disco Stu is such an enigma that my mind wanders when I see him in crowd shots with various people. Like here he is sitting between Martin and Mo as they argue. Like, what would these three talk about, I wonder? It's just weird that Disco Stu has all these random character connections that the writers and animators kinda stick to. Like here he is bringing a wedding gift for Edna Ann Flanders. Is it because he's super Christian? Or is he just friends with Edna? Who knows? Or actually, maybe he's Jewish, as Homer seems to have a yarmulke from his wedding to Selma. Does he just try out different religions for different women? To be honest, everything about this off-screen relationship with Selma seems pretty messy. In a season 27 episode, she feels lonely and calls her old flame. But he angrily replies, "Disco Stu is over you," as he sighs all alone in his house full of Selma photos. Disco Stu needs a Zoloft or two. They do end up hooking up anyway, only for Selma to dump him because she doesn't need him anymore. Oh, but it gets worse. Much, much worse. So remember that gag episode, Lisa the Boy Scout, full of unproduced horrible episode ideas? According to this segment, Marge's mom is actually Selma, and her father, Disco Stu. So, if this episode were made, that means Selma and Disco Stu had Marge together, and then Disco Stu hit on his daughter after she grew up. Well, I guess it would explain why Marge loves him so much. But ew, thank God this isn't real. It's crazy how Disco Stu is inexplicably a continuity wizard, and everything somehow works perfectly with him. Even the horrible stuff is airtight. You might be wondering, has Disco Stu ever gotten a Spotlight episode or B-plot? Well, unfortunately, this is not the case. There's only really a couple examples where Stu affects the main story, even in a minor way. Probably his most major role was in season 30's Woohoo Done It, where Homer butt dials him and he's able to provide an alibi. As Homer slurps spaghetti off the kitchen floor, Disco Stu started grooving to the beat, since he hadn't listened to any other music in so long. That jaded and introspective side of his personality is bubbling up once again. Also, hey, more Selma stuff. In the Pizza Bots episode in season 32, Stu is keeping one of the animatronics for himself. He still lives with his mom, who shames him for wasting his life on America's worst music craze. His late father was Doo-Wop Steve, and his mother is Public Domain Debbie, and both look down on his life passion. Alright, I'm calling bullshit on this. Say what you want about disco, but really? You're putting Doo-Wop and the Public Domain on a pedestal? Get over yourself, Debbie. Disco Stu and Principal Skinner totally need to get an apartment together to get away from their toxic mothers. But Disco Stu isn't only about lore in these later seasons. He's still got his fluffy one-off jokes and shoutouts. Like Lady Gaga describes him as Disco Stutiful, he's singing karaoke, and he's working as one of Homer's crossing guard goons. He's the first one kicked out of the Mars astronaut program when he disses Fig Glutens, one of their sponsors. He also regrets getting rid of his dog. Don't worry, he gets it back, I think. I really like this season 27 joke, where Bart mentions all-night discotheques, and Marge wonders where he heard about them, and Bart chastises her for not considering Disco Stu. He's a resource, Mom. Use him. I like the idea of Disco Stu being an institution, this wise entity that can put people in their place when needed. I also love some of his alternate designs in the Treehouse of Horrors. Like, here's his anime version, and here he is homerized. Donut Stu has diabetes type 2. He has such an iconic, eye-catching design that I understand why he pops up regularly in their Halloween specials. Unfortunately, most of the time, it's them killing him. He'll be among the first to succumb to the body snatchers or get axed by the sea captain. Actually, in general, there is kind of a running joke about Disco Stu dying in the later seasons. He has tried to off himself several times. He throws himself off of a cliff. When losing power and his music, he puts a gun to his head. He visits the assisted suicide booth, claiming, "If Disco's dead, then I don't want to live. It's suicide." In A Serious Flanders, he gets used as a human shield and is shot up repeatedly. He doesn't even get to finish his staying alive dance. How disrespectful. They do name a street after him in his memory, so that's good. Even during his quote-unquote series finale, they kill him off. Everyone else gets to turn out the lights on their story, but not poor Disco Stu. If there's anything we learned today, it's that Disco Stu lives in hell. He was saddled with overbearing music-loving parents, and he defied them by becoming a respectable sea captain, but got enraptured by the disco beat, which his parents still look down on him for. His obsession is considered a joke by everyone, in universe and out, as he pitifully and desperately tries connecting with the Springfield ladies. His marriage to Selma is ruined by his obsession, a relationship that still haunts him. He has become jaded and depressed, questioning if he even likes disco. He turns to sugar and alcohol and tries to end it all. And if he does grow old, he sits alone, mournfully questioning his life choices. There is no happy ending for Disco Stu. His passion is replaced by wistfulness, and his flirtations by non-canonical incest. Anyway, Disco Stu is a fun character, and I like it when he appears. Justice for Disco Stu. I've heard that in the old days, the die-hard fans hated him and viewed him as a hacky repetitive joke the writers refused to abandon. But I appreciate what a walking non sequitur he is. That this innocuous joke morphed into this bizarre disco guy wandering around Springfield. Remember, in the early 90s, pop culture was still in its disco sucks phase. Like, one of my first childhood memories of it was this Rugrats joke where Angelica asks, "What's disco?" And they're like, "It's something that is never ever coming back." That was the cultural attitude when the Simpsons gave him this dumb shtick. But ironically, as time and nostalgia marched on, people reappraised the genre and gave it its flowers. Disco Stu is still fundamentally a joke, him clinging to something that happened nearly 50 years ago now. But I think time has been kind to Disco Stu, even if the show hasn't been. I see him and think of something fun and nostalgic, from an era before my time. Also, I guess before his time too, given the floating timeline. Ultimately, Disco Stu is a meme. He is the definition of a meme character, and I think it's cool that they played around with our expectations over the years. The fact that there is Disco Stu lore, and that it actually makes sense, is the funniest thing in the world to me. Screw the haters, Disco Stu forever. Let me know in the comments what you think of Disco Stu and your favorite moments of his. I'm actually gonna vote for this one. Somehow Marge is Disco Stu's best character foil, and it is so funny to me. As for the next Simpsons Histories, I'm gonna wipe the nomination slate clean and start anew. There was a huge groundswell last time that overshadowed most of the other nominees. So let me know who you would like to see covered. We could go anywhere. There are still so many excellent candidates out there. Someone out there has to be as complex as Disco Stu. As always, thanks for watching.